Hi, I'm Greg Dell here with Stephen Jessup, and we're going to talk about cognitive disorders that frequently come from, they can come from injuries, from accidents, and we want to talk about what impact that has on a long-term, short-term disability claim and how you can get that kind of diagnosis. But the real place that we see a lot of the cognitive disorder deals with the people that are really suffering from chronic pain. And it's not a diagnosis. A lot of people say, oh, I have a cognitive disorder, but I never had brain damage or something like that. So it's not necessarily, there's the obvious one where a person has an auto accident or traumatic injury, they hit their head, they pass out, and they have a brain injury. Okay, it's normal to have some cognitive difficulties. So let's start with first, Steve, what are the cognitive difficulties that we're talking about that affect a person's ability to work?
We're going to go along the lines of things that would be tested for neuropsychological testing, short-term memory recall, executive functioning, thought processing, the speed of those things. So anything that's going to affect the mental aptitude for work. Most occupations, as we see when there's denials, they fall in this idea of a sedentary classification. Us as attorneys, we have a sedentary job according to the Department of Labor, but it's not a matter of being able to physically do those duties, it's the mental demands of the duties. So this type of testing, neuropsychological testing, back into the cognitive disorders or limitations even because of a physical medical condition, kind of hash out those realities that a lot of insured face.
Let's keep it real basic because you mentioned neuropsychological testing, and many people we speak to say, yeah, I had testing, the doctor asked me a few questions, and that was 3 minutes. But what is the neuropsychological testing that you're referring to?
Neuropsychological testing is usually a 6 to 8 hour long test. It's a series of almost seeming like a lot of people describe them as games. They seem very simple, but that's so they can draw a basis, a simple baseline across a large population. And these tests really only are administered by specialists, neuropsychologists, who their whole focus and training is in this area of testing and medicine, if you will.
Okay, and then they also will do the typical neuropsych goes through a 2 to 3 hour interview of the claimant looking at their medical history. Then they go through a battery of tests that are established in the medical community that tens of thousands of people have taken, and then they compare those test results to the tens of thousands of other people to see where you end up on the spectrum of ability versus everyone else. And then they may do multiple choice type, an MMPI, multi-personality type testing, which is 500 questions now or something like that, and they get all kinds of evaluations about that. But when we talk about chronic pain, a lot of people say, yeah, I'm disabled, and the disability company denied my claim, and they said that I can sit in my chair all day. Well, okay, maybe you can just sit in a chair all day, but does that mean you have the cognitive ability to work? So where does that diagnosis fall into play? If someone has a back problem and they have a herniated disc or some kind of lumbar sickness, is a diagnosis of cognitive disorder a mental nervous condition, or what is it exactly?
Well, a lot of times insurance companies will try to turn it into a mental health condition regardless of the actual underlying disability. That's why it's important during the course of the neuropsychological testing, while they're doing standardized psychological testing like the MMPI, they can rule out whether or not it's an underlying mental health condition that's causing the problems, or whether it's the actual physical medical condition that's causing it. So the importance of it is steering it away from this idea, because in a lot of chronic pain you're going to have secondary depression and anxiety because of the amount of pain you're in. So insurance companies will always try to take any of those cognitive complaints and lump it into that mental health limitation to try to limit your claim to 24 months. As an aside, this also happens in cases such as Parkinson's, MS. You see this happen a lot. So it's important that the way that it's being presented, and a lot of times there may not even be a firm diagnosis. It may be further down on the scale. It's really how the testing comes back. If it's going to be done formally through the neuropsychological testing, sometimes you get cognitive disorder not otherwise specified, which usually means it's not towards a mental health condition. But the hardest thing is keeping it away from that mental health limitation that the insurance company will definitely try to apply.
Right. Now, we have a lot of clients who, people think, oh, I don't have a cognitive issue because I'm not having any memory issues. And it's not really just I don't remember things. It's difficulty with multitasking. That's one of the biggest things that everybody does at every job, regardless if it's sedentary, medium, or heavy duty, is that you have to balance multiple things every day. You have to remember to call people back. You have to remember to do 10 or 15 different things in a day. And when you start to have difficulty balancing all of those different things in a day because a portion of the day or every couple minutes during the day you're thinking about the discomfort and pain you're having, or you have a migraine or a variety of other things that are bothering you, then there's no way you can stay focused on the task in hand. And the only way to show that is through these neuropsychological tests. And so we've evaluated probably thousands of neuropsychological tests. And also you'll see the disability company request a neuropsych evaluation. But very often they're doing it to try to prove, oh, the person's depressed or they have anxiety and trying to get that 2-year mental nervous limitation.
Or in situations with chronic pain conditions, I've run across this, they'll do that testing because there's cognitive complaints, but they'll also try to use it as a way to show if the person isn't giving effort or if they're over-exaggerating, as a way to kind of destroy someone's credibility even.
Right, so talk about that as our last aspect here, about the validity factors within a neuropsych type test.
All of the testing will have validity factors, and a lot of times too, how it's going to be determined whether or not someone put forth the adequate effort or if they're reliable results can be left up to the interpretation of the person looking at the data. One of the big things you do see though in denials where testing has been done is they'll say, well, there's indication of cognitive problems and deficits. However, on the validity testing, there's indications of not putting forth adequate effort, purposely giving misleading answers. So they use as a way to discredit any cognitive problems and then extrapolate that out and really start to discredit the physical complaints, because at the end of the day, those complaints are going to be subjective as well. So the insurance company will use it as a tool to try to establish someone is not being necessarily honest in their presentation.
So, and then that's when you'll see, you know, the insurance company will send someone for a neuropsych exam and they'll say the results came back and said you're malingering, you're exaggerating your symptoms, and therefore we find that your complaints of whatever difficulties you're having or your chronic pain are not necessarily valid. So I know you and I and all of our lawyers have been using these neuropsych test exams to our advantage and taking our clients who have chronic pain conditions, not just the people who have Parkinson's or MS or Meniere's or all of those different conditions, but we've been using the neuropsych test exams to show, hey, our claimants' complaints are valid. The results show they're not exaggerating, because quite honestly, there's no tool in the world that measures pain. There's no test to say, yes, that person's in pain. You know, obviously, if we show you an x-ray and the bone snapped in half, you'd think the person's in pain. So, whatever status your claim is at, whether you're looking to apply or you're on claim and having difficulty, or your claim's been denied, you need to file an appeal or you need to file a lawsuit, feel free to give any of our lawyers a call. We can help you anywhere in the country, and we always offer a free consultation.